And we're live.
Live. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Typically, we do roll call because we've been doing that, so it's almost a tradition now. So maybe we could start with that.
Sure.
All right. Hi, I'm Manil. I'm a developer working on the website redesign initiative out of Vancouver, BC. Next, we could go with Tierney.
Hi, I'm Tierney Siren. I'm the chairperson of the Node.js Community Committee, and I'm a developer advocate at NodeSource.
Cool. Dhruv?
Hi, I'm Dhruv. I'm a student, not any engineer or any working employee at any place. Hello?
Yes,
Yep.
we can hear you. Thanks,
Hello?
Dhruv.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we definitely
Yep.
can.
The
Adam's probably next.
internet is damn slow here.
Yeah, my name is Adam. I'm a developer at LinkedIn and a member of the community committee.
Cool. Olivia?
I'm Olivia. I am also on the community committee. That's all.
All right, so that's it with roll call. This is probably our fourth meeting for the website redesign initiative. Don't quote me on that, but we're a couple of meetings in, and we have 4 agenda items to go through today. The agenda items are picked on which ones have activity between the previous meeting and the current one. And so the first one we have is coordinating getting started content with Node School content, issue number 18.
Yeah, so I can probably give a little bit of an update on that. I reached out in the issue and then also privately via DM to a few people. Only one of them responded. So I as much as he's definitely going to be a good asset and like person to talk to about it. I don't know if we're going to get the engagement that we are looking for from this beyond, 1 or 2 people. So I think we probably need to reprioritize that. And for context, that was, I don't know how to pronounce his handle. It was one of the people who, former PM contributor or employee, and has done quite a bit around.
Oh, Tajibo?
Yes, Tajiro.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so he responded. He's definitely a good person to interact with on this. But we're not going to get the engagement that we're I think we were hoping for. So we probably need to reprioritize a little bit on this.
Maybe while thinking about this, I'm wondering to reprioritize, we may want to flesh out exactly what we want from Node School so that we can figure out if that needs to be changed while we also reprioritize. So
yeah, so I think hold on, let me open something real quick. I think that it's what we were looking for was kind of a discourse with them in a meeting where we'd be able to kind of understand or figure out how to reuse the content from Node School and get that into the website effectively as part of the kind of interactive tooling that we've been discussing. Am I far off on that? Does anyone else have changes or additions they'd like to add to that?
I think I was a little unsure of if we were looking to integrate with the setup the code they've already written for their tutorials, or if we were just looking strictly for content.
Okay.
So clarifying that would probably be good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was my understanding at least that we were just looking for getting started content, and so we didn't have to make the lesson plan and write all the content ourselves. I'm not sure if it was more, if other people had more ideas around actual code integration and importing actual content, but
I mean, depending on the the amount of engagement we get with the Node School people, we can start with getting started content. And then kind of go from there.
So
that might be a good plan.
I'm trying to pull it up. I don't know where the Learn You Node repo exists, but I think one thing that may be more effective is, rather than trying to reach out to node schools as like a whole entity, going to the people who are maintainers of the base Learn You Node repo, or the workshopper, and see that I think that will be a more effective way for us to kind of go down that path of getting content. Because looking at this, the workshoppers are actually in a totally separate org than Node School. So I think we may have all been under the assumption that it was like the same thing, but it looks significantly different. Like all the Node School workshoppers are in here, and there's not really a mention of Node School other than like the labels on each repo. So I will paste that in the chat right now. 1 second, here it is.
Okay.
There it is. Yep. So that's, oh, I just posted it to you privately. I hate that it does that just randomly. There it is. Yeah, so there's the repo. Maybe creating an issue in there, because I mean there's a significant amount of contributors. And I don't know if there's just explicit maintainers, but I think we should probably try to reach out in that repo rather than try to reach out to a nebulous group of Node School organizers, because I think Node School is the kind of in-person event and not necessarily the content of the event.
So maintainer-wise, every workshop has its own governance.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's still worth reaching out, I believe. Yes, that is true, but it's just how that works.
So what we may want to do, just so we aren't blocked by this for too terribly long, is I believe I floated last time having a dedicated meeting for people interested just for figuring out the getting started lesson plan, basically. So if we set up that meeting, pick a time, and say and make it an open invitation for everybody on this list of contributors, and say, hey, we're using what you have as a foundation for what we're building. Anybody here who wants to attend, please. We'd love your engagement, and just make sure that they are engaged and aware of what we're doing. That way we can move forward and not start from scratch, because we'll be essentially using the content in this repo as a foundation, but give them every opportunity to engage. We can't make them engage with us if they don't want to. So I don't think we should hold back or wait if they're slow to respond.
And let me look at their license. Yeah, it's that repo is MIT. At least the base one, like the Learn Your Node, the basic one. So in that sense, we can at least base our stuff off of that. And so that's probably a good path to start going down.
We will also be probably in a drastically different format than what they offer here. Like, this is a command line tool, and we probably won't be able to leverage that.
Yep, so. Exactly. And we should, just out of respect, make sure that we link back to it and note that it's from it. Her content is based off of it. So, I think we can probably start progressing on that. Would we like to schedule a meeting for that?
Yeah, that could be the to-do from this.
So I will create an issue for that right now. Meeting. And then from there we can dig in to that.
Perfect. Are you creating it right now, Tierney?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So the outcome of this discussion was we just switch tracks instead of reprioritizing, which is good.
Yeah. We can talk about it more in whatever dedicated meeting is set up, but just looking at the repo, it looks like a lot of their, or all of their exercises are actually just stored in Markdown. So
Perfect.
It's possible that we could literally just leverage the Markdown files in this project. And that way we can stay in sync with updates to them.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, but
Awesome.
we can talk about that more in the dedicated meeting.
Cool. Do we have anything else we'd like to talk about on that first agenda item then?
Doesn't seem like it.
Cool.
Awesome. So if there's nothing further for this agenda item, we can move on to the second one, which is website wireframes, issue number 15.
I can give an update on that. End of quarter sucks.
Believe me, I know.
Oh yeah, as I'm sure we're all going through right now. So there hasn't been a crazy amount of activity on the ticket itself. However, I'm sorry, on my phone, I'm opening up the issue as I'm killing time while speaking. There hasn't been a crazy amount of activity on the issue itself. We got some feedback back from the release, or some members on the release team. It seems like there is certainly interest on officially supporting, whatever officially means, the package manager page. Although, again, I think we maybe shouldn't plan on it because that's a lot of work on the TSC's part and kind of a big direction change. However, there did seem to be consensus around how to handle downloads and communicating LTS. But that's largely all the discussion that's happened on here since last time. As for actual work on the wireframes, I only just reopened the file myself earlier this week, but I've started to address some of the feedback here. And fingers crossed, we'll have a updated wireframe to continue reviewing before next meeting. Yeah, that's the status of where it's at.
Awesome. Yeah, and I do think that we kind of got unblocked quite a bit with the TSC discussion around the download stuff. That answered I think at least it answered a rather, one of the questions that we weren't sure about and couldn't really answer ourselves. So I think that's a very helpful thing that we got out of the way. So yeah, I'm super happy that we got that done.
Yeah, it was a good talk. We might want to, I have a hunch that if we don't keep pressing the question of package managers as a sanctioned download path, it will probably fall to the wayside. So we probably just want to keep the conversation going on that. But I do agree that we got an answer for what should the default download be. Should the homepage button be a download button or just link you to the releases page? We got those questions answered. So and seem to have consensus.
Yeah. One thing I can do is I can request that this is added to the TSC agenda explicitly for that discussion. And I can go in as an observer, or anyone from this can go in as an observer. But I will probably have cycles to do that unless someone else wants to. And then, push that question as the agenda item.
Yeah, Tierney, I'd be happy to tag team with you.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good. Yeah. So I will see what I can do on that and get that pushed forward.
Cool. So as we understand it, we have been unblocked on that particular issue by the discussion, and the next actions include pushing the package manager issue with the TSC and sitting in other meetings?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I think as far as planning designs goes, I think we'll probably have two different versions depending on how quickly the package manager conversation progresses. One for if package managers are kind of sanctioned and they want to keep it, they want to make it a more prominent feature offered through the website, and the other if it will take a while or if it's just not as supported, and we'd like to push direct downloads more. Just preparing for either outcome.
Yeah, and my guess is that this isn't going to be something that they have a super strong suggestion on, just because this, like, working at a company that provides the main Debian and RPM packages, many people don't care about it. It's not that they don't care, it's just it's not something Node Core handles. And so it's not easy. It's really not easy. So yeah, this is probably gonna, like, just making sure to give warning, this is probably gonna be something that is not trivial to get a decision on. So and that's not like a comment on what anyone does. Yeah, it's just from experience.
It's the nature of the conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's good to be aware of that then for us to pace ourselves in the future with what we want from external parties.
It's very possible that we will move ahead with just the regular downloads page, and maybe have a stub page mentioning with the same content we have now for package managers, and maybe upgrade that in the future.
Yeah, and
be prepared for that.
Yeah, I mean, we could even include that because there's the existing stub page that could be like a section below the downloads, rather than having it on its own page. And that's, I don't think that would necessarily be bad, because, like, having insight that no one else in the TSC or the project has, that page is pretty heavily used, and, like, I can go in and see the direct correlation between people looking at it and then downloads happening. So yeah, it's fairly heavily used, and I do think we're doing a little bit of a disservice if we don't include it high up somehow. So yeah.
Okay. Well, that seems like a good case to take to the TSC.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so we have some to-dos for that one, and possible future, like, anticipation of future direction. Does anyone have anything they want to add to that particular discussion?
I have one more kind of open question about wireframe concepts, but it really gets in the weeds, so I'm not sure if this is the best place to ask it.
I think that's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Good.
We want to get in the weeds.
Yeah.
So also on the downloads page, at the very bottom of the wireframe, I at the time, at least in that first iteration, opted to have just a list of all past downloads. It's currently hidden on a stub page elsewhere on the site, but in this case, like, we have a dedicated resource, or we have like a dedicated sorry, it's early. Words are hard right now. We have a dedicated page for managing all download options now, instead of like a bajillion stub pages. And there wasn't a lot of content to put at the bottom, so I was envisioning kind of this infinite scroll as you go. It loads more of literally every download at every version. And there was some feedback on the page, or on the issue, that would be potentially a bit much, like a lot of information to present. It was I'm trying to find my comment on it. Like, kind of the thread died, but
I think this is what you want. I'm posting it to the chat.
Yeah, here it is. The feedback was, release list at the bottom of the page should be a separate page. It's quite long and not that important to be presented in the main release page. And quote, I agree, having the full release list as a separate page would help make the release landing page more focused on the release process. Maybe the idea could have the X most recent releases be readily available to drill down for historical info. My kind of counter, and then that conversation thread died in favor of other conversation on the issue, because there's a lot of different threads happening there. One counter would be, scrolling is cheap, and if there's no more content on the page, having the releases list at the bottom will only increase discoverability for the section and make the site easier to navigate. And we also had some discussion about integrating the current news section into the releases page. That happened in another thread.
Hmm.
Since it's mostly just changelog rips from GitHub anyway.
Yep.
And those changelog links are surfaced in that wireframe in that long list of every release.
Yep.
So it's kind of merging the two concepts of having the full list of releases available for people if they want to dive deep into that, and also surfacing changelogs for every version in a convenient way, which there's probably a more obvious way to do that in that list. And you can play with format. But yeah, that was my kind of counter. So I'm curious what other people's opinions are here.
+1 and surfacing changelogs, those are very helpful to get at easily.
So I have a lot of opinions. I don't know, like I legitimately agree with the statement about the past downloads being available not being super valuable, just because it from what I've seen, the downloads of Node.js versions that are not current don't happen from the website. They happen from a package manager or a deployment requiring this version of Node, and that's kind of not done through the website at all. That's either going to be done through pulling the binary from the static site, and like they already know which binary they need, so they're not. It's an automated process, or they're doing it installing via deb or RPM, and so or it's a Docker image that is totally outside of this group at all, which that actually brings up another really good thing, is that we should make sure to surface the Docker path, because that's a super active working group that doesn't get much attention from anything else. And it's one of the most used paths to download Node. We should probably try to surface that. So that's just a side note. But I agree that past downloads might not be super valuable. I actually really do like the extra metadata you have here. That is extremely valuable, like being able to go look at the SHA-SUM and stuff, and the ABI and compatibility and the V8 version. That is kind of above and beyond what I would have expected, just because it's extra. Like I would go look at this just to reference that. So just having the download, not super useful. I do think if we focus more on it being a source of metadata, rather than changelog, SHA-SUM, ABI compatibility, npm version, V8 version, date published. Another thing I'd like to see is security, which is a whole thing that I can get into later.
Yeah, if it's flagged with any security risks. Yeah.
Yep. I'm pushing the security working group to do a full index rather than individual files on this, or on releases. So yeah, that's I do think that this is valuable. I think maybe only flagging like the 5 most recent, surfacing that, and then like you can expand. Sorry, 5. It's early. 5 most recent for each release line, and then you can show more for each would probably be useful. I think that's probably a good path to do it.
Okay.
And yeah, and then we can cut it off at the active release lines. So in April, that would no longer be Node 4. But yeah, I think that's probably a good approach, just to not have information overload, but still have super valuable information that people will actually use. Like this, I will go use this daily, that's what you want from a website, is utility, as well, at least for a software website. So yeah, I don't think that we should exclude this. I think we should just make sure we refine it to something that isn't going to be an information overload, and that we're socializing it most effectively. Again, I do think having that reference will be a way for us to do that. That said, I also don't know if all this information is readily available, which may be a good thing for the for us to help push on the releases team with.
Believe it or not, it actually is. A lot of that metadata I pulled from assorted stub pages that we already have running, which I think are automatically updated on release.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, so the data is available. I don't know in what format exactly, and that might take some creative coding, but but it is technically there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's great then.
Yeah, and I love all that feedback. We'll keep iterating on that section to try and make it, increase the utility of it.
Yeah,
I like that.
Awesome. It's worth getting into the weeds then.
It is.
All right. So that was issue number 15. It did sound like the discussion around that organically kind of wrapped up, but if there was something to add, now's the time. If not, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is issue number 12. Issue number 12 was around the tech exploration for the in-browser Node playground, which I believe was going to be our interactive platform for letting people play around with Node. And
yeah, so I know Darcy is one of the people who was most opinionated and cared most highly about this. He's not here, I don't think, unless he's no. Oh wow, we've dropped 2 people. Yeah, so he's not here. I believe he might have had some action item, but I don't know.
We did have an action item from last meeting. It was, I think, getting a full a review of options, kind of a comprehensive comparison of features, and making a recommendation. But I don't see any movement on the ticket.
Yeah. Okay. In that case, we can probably table this till next time. And if we, if there's not an update, we can probably try. We'll have to readjust our scope in that sense.
Yeah. Well, so something that Darcy also said last meeting is content for our getting started in tutorials page will probably dictate a lot of the features that we need.
Yep.
So we'll most definitely be discussing this in the dedicated lesson plan meeting, and we'll probably have more movement emerge from that.
Okay, cool.
Great. Okay, tabled for now to be included in the dedicated getting started meeting. I'll just make a note of that. And maybe I'll also link to the getting started issue from this one, just in case. Okay, great. We've captured that. Unless there was something to add, now is the time. We do have time for this in today's meeting, but if it's tabled, we can move on.
So one thing, since Jin Schiffer reached out and expressed an interest in having Glitch be a part of that, it's probably gonna be helpful if we it'd be nice if we could reach out to her and see, make sure we're working on the content, and then once we have the content defined, I think that would be an appropriate point to reach out to her and say, hey, this is what we have. Does this make sense on Glitch? And the same, or using Glitch with this, and the same thing could go for RunKit.
Yeah, I agree with whoever we go with. We're gonna want the relationship with the creator.
Yeah, exactly. And
so
I am
the fact that
go ahead.
Sorry, the fact that Jen reached out is of their own volition is very promising.
Right,
I like
exactly.
that a lot.
Yeah, I do too, and that's why I kind of lean RunKit is a super awesome platform. I don't know of anyone in the RunKit space. I think one of my colleagues knows someone, or former colleagues know someone. But beyond that, like, I don't know them at all. And so it's really nice to have a very close relationship with the platform, because that's how we're going to get things resolved and have it not be technical debt, but have it be a platform that works for us.
Yep. And I do really like that Glitch gives you a full project space to work with. It's not just a single file that you press a run button and it runs the one node file. It's you get the full workflow. Yeah, like you would in production.
Yeah, and I believe they just released it even more fully fleshed out version of it. So
awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that part, I remember when I first started using Node, it was much easier to visualize how it works when you see everything, even if it is kind of cumbersome to have to consider those things, but it was easier. And not to mention that when Jen like commented on it, she did say that they would be providing at no cost and they were willing to commit to help and develop it, which is buy-in without us asking.
Right.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, they also have already she and then others in the team have also created a ton of getting started for Node.js content on Glitch. So they're already in that space and they're already in that mindset, and they already have either experience and I assume they have feedback on that, and so that's going to be valuable input for us.
Let's invite Jen to that getting started meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So let's add that as an agenda item. Let's see. I'm trying to. Actually, I still have the issue open, so I will add that in as a note. Okay. Cool.
Nice. There is movement.
Darcy literally just commented 3 minutes ago on the issue. Let's see what this is. He referenced another issue.
Cool.
Oh no, it's nothing. He linked to another issue in the website redesign repo.
I gotcha. Awesome.
Oh, all right. Well, there is movement in this one.
Yep.
Too. That's promising.
Yep. And let's see, are we at the end of the agenda?
We added voice and tone guidelines to the
Yes,
end.
we did. Yes. Would you like to talk about that, Adam?
I don't have a lot of context on this other than I posted the issue in the beginning.
Let me. Okay. It just got surfaced.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm confused. I might have added this incorrectly. Hold on. Let me look at the right one. Voice and tone. Okay,
we did have some more content pushed to the PR up for voice and tone. It looks like.
Okay. Cool.
I haven't had a chance to review it yet.
Yeah. So
I can talk a little bit about it.
Awesome.
For the content, it was the voice, that part was fleshed out mainly as a result of the discussion from a previous meeting. Because while talking about content that was pushed at first to voice and tone, it was mentioned that humor, I think Adam, you might have mentioned it would be worth it to talk about humor. And there was a fair amount of back and forth on that with all the participants who were available that day, which I went back to the YouTube and I listened to it a bit more to try and inform what would be our a primer of sorts for using humor in the Node.js voice. Haven't, as far as I can tell, there isn't really any feedback on it. Someone commented that they're interested to see what voice and tone looks like, so that's great.
Yeah, I'll make sure to go in and really deep dive review it and give feedback in the next day or so. Sorry for dragging my feet on that,
It's Good
I
Friday.
do love the draft.
So do we have anything else we'd like to talk about on that? Are we good for right now?
I have nothing further to add.
Okay, so I do have a couple things that weren't on the agenda that I'd like to add, just like additions to what has already been done in the past. I commented on the content structure issue number 4. I added 2 things there. One is suggesting a branding page. This came up in a discussion on Twitter with Sean Larkin and Christopher Hiller, who commented in the issue. But I learned something in that discussion, that Webpack is always lowercase, just like npm, and that reminded me of the much time I've spent on making sure people spell Node.js correctly. And it's more of an internal thing at work, but it's a pretty across the ecosystem thing, that Node.js is spelled in a variety of ways, and we also don't have like colors or a color palette or easy access to the logos, which is one of the pain points I've always had with the website, and I refer to constantly, is I can never find where to go download the logos. And they're also, the SVG for the just the node hex is actually broken. It was built in GIMP, and the paths don't work if you open it in something else. So I had one of the design team at Node.js fix it for me because I needed to use it at one point. But if the path is broken, we should probably try to make sure that's fixed. So yeah, it's just having a branding guideline and then having like all our assets would be super helpful, especially for those of us who are going and working on things that are more community focused.
So I can second and third and fourth everything you just said. I'm at LinkedIn, I'm on the design systems team. I help run the design systems team, so I'm going to be a little hawkish about this once we actually get to high fidelity design, and I'd be very disappointed if we didn't have that page as well. It probably lives alongside the links in the footer for legal and terms and conditions and that type of content. Do you think having a surface there would be good?
Yeah,
as long as we have that dedicated page.
That's totally fine.
Awesome.
And beyond that, actually, that's another good point. Did we cover like legal in this at all?
No, we haven't. It's kind of been this hand wavy. Legal button goes here. It leads to a page about legal. Okay. So.
And that we will actually need to get foundation input on. Don't let that be a blocker.
No.
Yeah, that's gonna take like 3 months to actually get that. So that will be a definite blocker if we let it be. Also, the other thing I wanted to comment on in this is that I added one more microsite, and just speaking just now, I need to add
another. I had no idea that existed.
Yeah,
ci.nodejs.org.
That is how Node is built, and that's the tool we use to like check the status and pull everything out. It's a super useful thing that almost nobody knows about outside of core, or a super interesting thing. I don't know if it's necessarily useful, but like yesterday, I was looking at it to see, when the releases were going to happen. Because it was locked down, and when it's unlocked, that means they'll be happening, and when it's locked, that means they're starting. So yeah, it was it's a pretty useful resource, and interesting. But there's an additional one, which is I don't think it's foundation yet. I don't think it's covered anywhere, which is foundation, the foundation microsite, or not microsite, subsite, which is foundation.nodejs.org, which was built because the foundation wanted to be updating content and couldn't do it fast enough with the way the website was set up. They weren't like, the people are more marketing and PR focused rather than technical, and so it was becoming more and more of a barrier to them to actually get stuff shipped. And so, they went and built a foundation-focused website on the foundation subdomain that it uses the template, the WordPress kind of template that the majority of Linux Foundation sites actually use. I think it would also be super useful if we could provide them a feedback mechanism on that, because there are occasionally I spot something that might be incorrect, a metric or something like that. So it's definitely something that we can make sure to give them feedback on, but at the same time, we should make sure we're also surfacing it because it is an important resource.
Yeah, we'll probably this will probably be linked to and talked about on the yet to be laid out community page.
Mm-hmm.
Ironic, right? The community committee doesn't have a community page in the wireframe yet. It's funny.
So I do think this actually might need to be a top level thing.
Okay.
It might, just because it is important for the foundation's business goals and making sure Node.js stays funded.
It's pretty important, I hear.
Yeah, it's something we should take care of. We might, I'm not saying that we have to do this, but that we would probably want to consider that down the road.
Okay. Good to know about.
Cool. With that, do we have anything else that we'd like to discuss?
I didn't have anything further to add.
Yeah, not off the top of my head.
Cool.
Should we? Actually, sorry, one more thing. I know I'm still figuring out how I'm wrangling the funds through LinkedIn for making it to the Collaborator Summit happening a little later. But should we try and organize a dedicated get together? If
yes.
At the very least, just to hang out and chat, and hopefully actually have a working group session, a dedicated one for us. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if there's already an issue started in the repo talking about that. I don't remember, but if there isn't, we should start one.
There is an issue in community committee about items that the community committee wants to bring up at, I think Dan started it, that they want to bring up at the Collab Summit, but not within the website redesign. Yeah.
So it might, what the path I've seen happen for collaborator summits in the past has been an issue in the initiative or working group repo to kind of add issues or add things to talk about on a rolling basis. Just, hey, we're starting this. Let's think of some ideas of things to talk about, and then as time goes on, we can kind of iterate on that and what's in there. So I think that's probably a good thing to do, and then we can just link that issue in the ComCom repo.
I could open an issue and do that.
Good.
Yeah,
that sounds awesome. Perfect.
Okay, I'll add it to do. That would be good, actually. I imagine that if the people from the website redesign initiative met at Collab Summit, it might have been a good place to get moving and to get started content, because some of the Node School people were there, but we also have another track for that. So maybe. Yeah.
And I do think it's worth noting that it's going to be a very useful place for us to understand how this is going to happen. And let me frame that by saying how the site's going to be built, literally by the build team, not necessarily the tooling, not React or front-end frameworks or anything like that, but how the build process happens, and be aware of that, and also get those people involved in the discussion, just to make sure we're not expecting anything spectacular. Or sorry, that sounded way more negative than I meant it to. Make sure that we're not trying to do something that isn't possible and setting expectations for ourselves that might not be possible. And I don't so far I haven't seen that at all. I've more just seen things that are totally possible, but I want to make sure that the deploy process isn't going to be a barrier for us.
Right.
So
yeah. And Adam, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, Tierney, I'm hoping we can learn a little bit about that process as we negotiate the automated attendance site.
Yes.
Like I'd love to get a little insight into that
for sure.
when we get somebody to respond.
Yeah, and we can reach out to Node.js build on that as well, because that's something pretty normal. That like we have you've seen we have like 50 microsites on the site, so yeah.
And we're about to have one more.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome.
It would be good to surface whatever is happening in the website redesign initiative to the rest of the community at large. They might have input that they just haven't thought to give yet.
If there's like a lightning talks section of where it's like, hey, this thing is going on, you should know about it. Here you go. It might be good to get a 5-minute thing together and just give a little spiel about what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do believe there will be that kind of section. So
awesome.
Should be good. Awesome.
Cool.
And so one thing I do want to say is that like it feels like we're going slow. Like I can see a perception that it feels like we're going slow. We're not. I really don't think we are. We're making pretty good progress pretty rapidly, and everyone is doing a lot of work, and it's we all are doing this on a volunteer basis. There's we're not accountable to a boss here. So I just like to say thank you to everyone who's contributing to this. Y'all are doing some pretty incredible work, and it's very needed. So thank you. And on top of that, I do think that we're at a stage where it's the more difficult work that isn't easy, which I guess that's the same thing. But we're in the stage where we're defining the site and not building it, and that is much less attractive to people than building it. So once we get to that building it stage, I do expect that we're going to also be getting more people interested and more people who care about that part of it to start contributing. And this is a pretty unique initiative where it's like multifaceted. There's not just one consistent task that it has and then like facets of that task or like small bits, extra bits of that task. It's stages that we're going through and proceeding through. And we are going to have people jump in and drop off throughout that process. Especially with the various focuses of this initiative, and the various like domains of those sections. So I do want to make sure that like nobody gets demotivated because we're seeing like less people than we might have hoped, or less people than we might expect, and that's just because of the stage we're at. And like this is exactly what I expected in terms of engagement. Like I've been doing this in Node.js for a while, and so I kind of have an idea of how this goes. But this is definitely a unique instance, and we are very much on track and doing very, very well compared to previous efforts to actually do this. So, like I said, I just want to applaud everyone for doing the work they're doing.
Thank you for the historical context. Much appreciated. And I'm happy to report that I'm just as excited for this as the day we started. So
awesome.
No worries for me about momentum. And
likewise,
Tierney, as always, thank you so much for all the effort you put into this. I know how much work this is, and you thank us all the time, and I feel like you need more thanks headed your direction. So
I appreciate it.
It's amazingly appreciated what you do.
Thank you.
Right. Especially waking up at the crack of dawn for this sort of thing.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Okay, and with that, I think we can probably end the meeting unless we have anything else like we'd like to discuss.
Doesn't look like it. We have all the to-dos done and everything discussed, so there are things to move on.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks everyone for coming, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Thanks, Tierney. Adam.
Bye.
See you next time.
Bye.